Welcome to Go Phish, where we explore the future of cybersecurity and learning. I'm Dan Thornton, and today we're joined by Jason Cuskelly from Tyfoom. Jason is the VP of Business Development at Tyfoom, a mobile first training platform that leverages short form video and automation to enhance compliance, safety, and employee performance. Jason, I get that right. Did I nail that?
Yes, you nailed it. That was awesome. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Cool, man. Tell me about your journey in learning and development. Where did it start, and where are you today?
Well, I would say most of my career has been spent in construction. So when it comes to learning and development in that realm, a lot of in-class sessions, a lot of in-person trainings, things like that. I went into the Marine Corps in the late 90s after being in a construction company. Spent 4 years as a reconnaissance Marine and a lot of great education and life lessons and experiences there. But then I got back into construction while I was in school. I got into construction management in college and ended up working for a couple large general contractors. I was with Big D Construction for a little over 10 years. And I was with Kiewit, large contractor, prior to coming to Typhoon. And the founder of Typhoon called me and said, "Hey, I want you to be a part of this. We're starting this startup." And I thought, okay, interesting mobile app tech company. And when I heard what they were doing, I loved it because I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I can make a greater impact on a larger scale. And so that's kind of where I think I really got. I was an OSHA instructor, CPR first aid trainer for some of my previous construction companies. So I went to the train the trainer programs for some different things. But that's kind of where my started with learning and development, especially in this space. And so I managed the content creation of our microlearning videos. And so that's kind of how I started into this. And Typhoon was born at an OSHA roundtable where, the OSHA director said, we need a better way to get this big, thick book, all the workers out there in the field that need it most. And he looked down at his phone and he thought, man, I need to make little micro videos on these standards and regulations that they need to work safely and make it home every day. And so that's how Typhoon was born. So in here about 7 years now.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit about Typhoom and the learning solution you offer. You talk about micro training. A lot of our viewers will know that's super relevant for our cybersecurity industry. Tell me about your solution, how you're using micro learning experiences and how that's changed over time.
Yeah, the basis for Typhoon was started on the idea of making it simple and easy, because it's can be challenging to go log in and watch long courses and stuff. So make it simple and easy through a mobile app, so it's at everyone's fingertips, and do it in an automated fashion. So instead of I have to go find it, it comes to me automatically. So I get a notification, I click the notification, I watch a 2-minute video, I take a 3-question quiz, and boom, I'm in my stats page, my gamified page. So it makes it fun and there's that instant reward. So the concept was automated, regular, consistent daily micro learning videos to increase engagement and increase retention of the concepts learned, and making it more accessible, because that's a big challenge with the information you learn in workspaces is it's not accessible, it's not searchable. It's hard to go find a section of a long course. You got to call the instructor and say, "Hey, can you remind me that one spot you talked about it?" Or I got to go look through a book or a manual. So accessing that information, this is where we're at today with Google, with YouTube. We want critical information we need at our fingertips, and then we want to apply it in the moment. So the idea of automated, daily, consistent micro learning to increase engagement and retention, and really create that habit, and change that mindset. We talk about the red car theory a lot. How many red cars did you see today? I don't know, a couple, but then I say it, and you go home and you see a bunch. Or, when you buy that
Yeah.
new car, now you're seeing them everywhere. It's not that there's more of them, it's just that your mindset changed. So really helping people change that mindset and improve those behaviors to be able to apply critical things you need in the moment to do your job safely, more effectively, more productively.
You talk about change, Jason. What do you think has been some of the most significant change in the corporate training space that you've witnessed over the last 7 years?
Yeah, I would say the use of micro learning versus long course structure, because 70% of that information in a long course is lost after day one and 90% in a week. And the main way that we train in the workforce is typically lecture, which is the worst way that we retain information. So I'm going to sit people in a room for 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and I'm going to talk at them and I'm going to run through slides and stuff like that. And I have no idea that they comprehended everything that they needed to. And so I think what you're seeing now is companies are recognizing that maybe we want to shorten these trainings. OSHA changed the time duration even so that you couldn't do 10 hours in a day or 8 hours in a day or whatever, break it up into a couple sections. You see a lot of these learning management systems out there now changing their course curriculum to shorten their 1 hour, 2 hour trainings, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So making it more digestible, I think has been a common theme. And, we definitely encourage the increase of frequency and the decrease of duration so that it's more
Yeah.
consistent, it's more consumable. So I think that as far as training is concerned, you're starting to see a transition there. Microlearning is becoming a catchphrase and a common word out there. And I think everybody's trying to shorten their content to accommodate our shorter attention spans, to accommodate the ability to have that information more accessible and searchable and things like that.
Yeah, I love that, Jason. You articulated that really well, and we're seeing exactly the same thing in the demand for it. And it's funny, the old school way of being in the classroom for an hour, 2 hours, get a quick break, step outside for a coffee break, and everybody's on their phones
Yeah,
scrolling through quick 2 minute
there you go.
videos on whatever social media app they're on. Like
Yeah.
this is how humans are consuming information these days. So learning and the industry is keeping up with that. And that's great to see, because if that's how you're consuming all of your information in a fun, engaging way with everything else, why shouldn't the learning be the same? And that is going to be the best way to retain information, is to break it up. It maybe in school, maybe in universities, maybe in really large, intensive skills-based courses, it's maybe different, but certainly in a lot of workplace training, and definitely your safety stuff or your hazard stuff or your security stuff, where you're trying to change behaviors and how people behave, and you're really trying to get that across. It's the short snippets. It's teaching one behavior at a time and explaining that in a really easy, engaging, relatable way. And this micro training is the way that we found that to be most effective. And it's great to hear that come from yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. Well said. And I mean, I'm a strong believer in, there's nothing like this, right? In person, shake the hand, talk, collaborate, get stories, feedback, share stuff. That whole opportunity is great. I think the problem is we don't take advantage of that opportunity to share stories, to share lessons, to really engage and interact and collaborate with our people in these in-person sessions, which it can be the best way to learn, especially when you're doing hands-on stuff and you get to apply it in the moment. And so instead, we just kind of check the box. We get them in there, sit them down, go through the course. Okay, go to work. And again, we can't retain all that. So it's nice to still do those, and you still have to do those in a lot of instances. I think it's just good to reinforce that with drip feed over time, little pieces on a regular cadence, and then grab it whenever you need it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, Jason. I mean, it does come down to the quality instructor and how good that in-person experience is. But if you can get that right, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
The problem that we all see, though, and businesses will cry about, is the cost implication of that and the disruption to the business,
Yeah.
stopping everybody, getting them all into one place at one time. It can be super disruptive, but 100% I agree. There's a time and place for it. As old school as it seems, getting that face to face, getting that interaction, getting people to ask questions and play things out and do it live. It's so impactful. It really does work well. And there's definitely a time and a place, but the cost implications on it
Yeah.
can't happen regularly. It can't be continuous every week, every month. So micro learning and online learning, there's definitely a huge improvement in how we are training people and the effectiveness of it. So yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
and I think point that's a great return on investment because we've had lots of companies where they say, "Hey, we don't have to do this in person. Instead of bringing them all in for 2 hours, let's just put this training session, let's chunk it up, put it in Tyfoom, tie it to a badge, and we'll save $300,000 in one application in indirect and direct
Yeah.
costs."
Yeah.
And then that
Yeah.
information's accessible. So, yeah, there can be a huge return on that, like you mentioned. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, your head of learning or your learning development office is the hero for saving so much money and
Yeah.
making it so effective. So
Yes.
it's cool. Everyone's winning. Topic of the day, Jason, AI. How are you guys seeing? How are you using it? How are you embracing it from a business wise, from a product wise, from content wise? How are you guys leveraging AI? And secondly, how do you see AI having the biggest impact over the next 12 months in your industry?
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, we haven't really gotten into AI a lot yet. We've utilized AI for some content creation. That could be a really great way to put together um, relevant content. You throw in an outline and it spits out a 2-minute video for you on a topic. So that can be a really great way to create content that's cheap and quick and easy. I think that one of the most common ways we're seeing AI be used and it being used well and responsibly is the kind of data mining where you can, maybe take a picture or you can say, what are our policies and procedures on fall protection, whatever. And it's going to really quickly get you access to that information and data that you need. And I think that's a great functionality. And we're kind of working on building some of that in. Everything's super accessible in our app, but just to be able to talk and then all of a sudden you get all this information right there for you is great. I think that the irresponsibleness that we've kind of seen, and we want to make sure we don't go down that path, is when it takes the thought process out of the workers in the workforce, right? Doing the work. And I want to say, here's my job. And it just auto populates your job safety analysis, whatever that is. And
Yeah.
you're kind of like, yeah, that's true. Okay, submit. The data mining is great. And it's only as good as all the information that you have in there for it. And so you're starting to see, I think, more consistency with the more data that gets put in there. And so that's going to be more accurate, more effective. But I think we got to be careful about not going down the path of taking the human element out of it and it just being like, well, the robot told me so. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to try to be responsible as we transition into leveraging some of the more aspects of AI. Yeah.
Related question, as more businesses are seeing opportunities to leverage AI themselves and want to upskill their employees and get ahead of this trend, what are some of the AI related topics that you guys are getting demand for to create your videos on and create training on to upskill workforces and get them to use it? Are you seeing an increase in demand?
I think you're starting to see a bigger increase in demand in that now. We will have occasionally some more clients throw out stuff like, oh, hey, look at this. Is this something you guys are going to look into or whatever that might be? And I think in those cases, it's things like I take a picture of a work site and it auto populates the hazards, it auto populates the controls. Maybe you record I just had an observation and I record an observation and it auto sends it to a certain person that needs to follow up on it or something like that. So I think
Yeah.
those are some of the common things that we're seeing some of our client base and folks in construction and manufacturing kind of look for. I think taking it further, you start to get into I don't know, the collaboration between maybe software systems and things that can really improve for proficiencies too, like robots that do layout or things that go in roadways to prevent people from actually being in the use of drones. The use of a lot of this different kind of technology can really, I think, help with safety, with quality, with productivity, time savings, efficiencies, all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's just a matter of what are those ways that you can do that. I think a lot of cases the AI is going to be how can people get to something they need or get something completed they need quicker, but just once again making sure that it's accurate and you, you know done accurately, I guess I'd say. So
As a training provider in the industry, what's been your most significant challenge that you found in scaling as all the technology comes out and the industry itself has matured and more competitors and more demand? Where have you seen problems in scaling or challenges in scaling, Jason?
oh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like we have a very simplistic way to implement, set up, onboard people. So scaling has been pretty good for us. And I think a lot of that was just the way that we engineered the product from the get go. I know that a lot of the learning management systems and software platforms out there can be 6 months, a year long to get built out, right? To get set up, to get everybody trained on, and to get actually implemented and in use. And
Yeah.
so we have a really simple structure for the way that Tyfoom can set up people and implement them. So, we can have companies up and running in 3 to 4 weeks, no problem, and get immediate engagement right out of the door and stuff. So I think a lot of that's just the way that we've built that as far as scaling for client onboarding. Maybe some of the challenges with us scaling to the amount that we'd like to from an internal purpose would be I think we were a little ahead of the game with some of this stuff. Daily engagement wasn't something people were measuring. Microlearning wasn't really that common 7 years ago. A lot of companies are still doing a lot of stuff on paper,
Yeah.
competing with systems in place where people maybe, unless you get the opportunity to really show how the differences are, or the differentiators, that they don't understand, oh, well, we have this system. Oh, we have this system. And so then those challenges with all these different competing systems, and some do one thing well and some do another, trying to find one stop shop for everything is just impossible. We've really tried to make our platform as robust as possible, so it's as much of a one stop shop as it can be. But I think just from helping people understand the ROI with things that are new, with engagement, with microlearning, with some of these aspects that are a little bit newer to people, I've seen a big transition in the last few years versus 7 years ago, with people saying, oh, we do want to measure our daily engagement. That's a lead measure. That's a proactive thing to do. We do want to improve our training program and incorporate microlearning because that's impactful. We do want to move to digital forms instead of paper because that's time saving and it's better data, it's more accurate, it's better visibility for leadership and management to make better business decisions. So I think part of that's just been the transition of industries embracing technology and wanting to advance. And, construction, which is kind of our core market, very slow to adopt. You've seen technology in the last
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
year ago, and agriculture and manufacturing, and they're doing these big upward slopes with implementing technology, and construction just kind of, not really implementing as much technology in the last handful of years. So I think those are a couple of the challenges with expectations of scaling versus how to do things like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you've got the old school industries. I spent many years in the oil and gas space
Yeah.
myself, and this is how we've always done things. Don't rock the boat. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, when it comes to product development now, and as you guys are looking forward, and you're looking for the next feature, or you're looking for new content, how are you, or how is your product team typically identifying and adding new features? How are you prioritizing what the next new feature is? How are you prioritizing your roadmap, both for the product and for the content? Who makes those decisions? How do you
Yeah.
make those decisions?
That's a great question. Well, we've had some things that we've wanted to do ever since we started. One example is a feature we released recently. It was within the last year, called sharing. And that's companies to be able to share stuff with each other. So if I enabled sharing with you, I could get your video content, you could get my video content forms, and there could be some visibility there. So kind of a collaboration opportunity. And that was something that we wanted to get into 7 years ago, but it took a while but it's kind of a revolutionary thing. So we put together a roadmap. And in the beginning, we're saying, what are the common things that everybody needs, right? Well, we're doing microlearning, obviously, digital forms, certification tracking, policies and documents. So kind of the basics. And then we say, how can we make this feature better? Or through trial and error or people using it. A lot of our roadmap stuff has come from clients. Hey, we'd really like this to incorporate that or this or that. And so we've made adjustments to our current features or features we already had in place based on client feedback to make it work better after seeing use case and getting data. And then we've also had, things that we just know we want to get to, and then things that are kind of like, it would be awesome if, and eventually, we'll get there and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of times, as far as what we are focusing on and putting our development team focus and time in, is how important is it to, number one, maintain what we have in place? Because I always joke around, we've created a monster. We have to be able to control it. So if somebody's video doesn't play for the day, or it's, let's say a company puts out their own video and something is weird about it, or it's, low quality, whatever, and it won't play, everybody gets excited. Oh, my score's going to go down. Oh, what? Hey, my video won't. And so it's kind of this, created this thing where everybody's a habit. It's a ritual. I'm watching my video. It's going to impact my score. And so we have to maintain that. And we even had to do kind of a rebuild from the bottom up because 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, we're like, okay, we got to try to upgrade this without anybody knowing and rebuild the whole base up. And so there's a lot of effort and goes into maintenance and managing it to make sure it works the way it's supposed to and keeping up on it. So we have a system that everybody is happy that works well all the time. And then what are those features and functionalities that are going to increase sales? Right? Or make it more sticky for the users, make it more reliable, more enticing, better for the existing clients. And so if we say, okay, here's one item and here's one item, we'd like to do both, which one do we feel like is going to increase sales more or be a better selling point, and that may be how we might make those decisions. Our CEO has managed that development team, and that's been kind of how we've gone through that.
So would you say that the positive impact or the perceived positive impact on sales would trump customer requests? So, every customer can be loud and they all want that one thing that would be a game changer for them. Do you guys ignore that until it's absolutely deafening and focus on your roadmap and the strategy around sales? Or do you listen to what they're saying? Do you pay attention to what the customers are asking?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like we really do pay attention to our customers, especially when it's something that impacts a majority versus if it's a really
Yeah,
weird
yeah,
one
yeah.
off, it's going to be like, you're the only one that's requested this. That's kind of a unique use case. It's going to take a lot of time to develop that. We're going to put it on and we'll keep you in touch. And maybe if we get some more requests, we'll look at more seriously. Now, if it's something that we have multiple people telling us, we're like, okay, yeah, we're doing that right now. And so I think the minor one-offs versus, okay, this is going to bring a lot of new people in is where
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
say what's more important. But yeah, if we get a lot of people saying the same thing, we just jump on it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a rule with our product team, and that like our customer success team will give feedback on a daily basis. There's
Yeah.
feedback for new
Yeah.
features and new
Yeah.
features, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, we'll put it in the roadmap. We'll put it in
Yeah.
the roadmap, and but we don't record anything, and like that's my rule. Like we don't record demands and requests. It's asked for enough, it'll be deafening, and we won't be able to forget it. And then that goes into the roadmap. Then that's something there. But yeah, a lot of companies, especially smaller companies and startups, can end up getting really distracted by that one big account, and they just need this one thing, and then they'll sign, and it can be really distracting to take away from that core roadmap that deep inside is the direction you need to be heading in. On that, Jason, what would you say? What is some of the most common, or what are your clients requesting the most regarding corporate training now? And if we look at that noise coming from your clients today, what are some of the new features that are being demanded and requested?
Yeah, I think if you're talking training specifically, more content, right? And more content on
Okay.
all types of topics. We have a pretty robust library of about 800 videos in that 2 minute range that are, OSHA, general industry, construction industry, a lot of HR topics, workplace violence, sexual harassment, active shooters, drugs and alcohol, a lot of health and wellness stuff. We have some videos from some doctor leadership, a little bit of leadership content, a lot of driving videos. So emergency procedures. So we have a pretty robust library, but people want to have more content on leadership, let's say. And or I think that's a big thing that I think we've kind of most industries fail at too is setting your new leaders up by giving them preparatory leadership training prior to putting them in that leadership or management role. And so I think that's a great way to get that leadership content out to them prior. But leadership content, I think the other thing too is just like more skilled trades or task specific training. I think the challenge there is where's the relationship between the provider like us making content for the customers that's universal enough that everybody can use it and that's relevant enough for everybody in the same industry. Whereas you might be overlapping best practices and some companies might say, well, we don't do it like that. And that's where we have the opportunity for companies to be able to put in their own content. So anything they want to put in and that to me is where I feel like people might feel a little overwhelmed at first, but once they start to create their own content, they find those couple champions, those couple folks that realize, hey, this is easy. I mean, it's really easy to make a quick little video on your phone. And when they start making videos of their people in the workplace, their subject matter experts, their frontline leaders, their foremen, their managers, their trainers, whoever in the workplace, showing them how to do a task, that's powerful because I would way rather watch my peer, my coach, my mentor teach me something than a Typhoon video. The Typhoon videos are great. I like these videos, but I'd rather see my own people teaching me the critical stuff I do every day at work. So I think that's been a big thing that maybe doesn't have as much to do with us, but industries and companies recognizing we need to kind of create some more of our own content, and having a good delivery mechanism is essential too, because if you make your own content but then it's going through YouTube, you don't have any visibility. You put it in your LMS, it's harder to access, so those kind of factors there too.
Jason. Yeah, really, really interesting to hear. How are you guys addressing the rising demand and rising need for data protection, compliance, data protection, cybersecurity awareness, that type of thing? Is that something that you guys are jumping on? Is that something that you've got videos for? Is that something that you're seeing demand for? Whereas OSHA is very much sort of hazard reduction, hazard management, safety management. Are you guys looking at the security side of things as well? And is that something that you offer to your clients?
Yeah, we have some basic boilerplate cybersecurity videos that we've created. We don't get into the weeds, but I think it's enough. I don't know, maybe it's 5 to 10 videos. That's enough to just kind of let people, hey, don't click these, don't do that, don't do this, kind of the basics. But again, I think that's a great opportunity for the IT department to get third-party content, like maybe content from yourself, and incorporate that into your people to get a little bit more into the weeds with that type of training. So we do provide that, and obviously the opportunity to put your own stuff in there. And then as far as our platform being secure, yeah, we just try to stay up to date with a higher level. We work with some pretty large organizations that have, demanding policies about security. So we have
Yeah.
to keep up with that, obviously.
Us. Yeah, that's really interesting. And that leads me on to a question. While you were talking there, I was thinking about sort of who are your decision makers? We've at Goldfish found it so different depending on the size of the organization when it comes to training budgets and decision makers on buying product. Are you mainly dealing with HR? Are you dealing with compliance officers? Are you dealing with safety officers? Who's buying Typhoon? Who's signing off on this? Who are you talking to?
Yeah, and I think that varies based on the type of company and definitely the size of company. The smaller companies, we might see a safety manager say, "Oh yeah, we're doing this. I got the budget for it. Let's sign me up." Or an HR manager. I think as you get into the larger sized companies, it has to go through the board or the different folks. It might touch the CFO. I think when somebody at a vice president level or above see the value, that's obviously powerful. Sometimes it's hard to get with them to explain that to them or show that to them. So we might have a safety director who's really excited, sees the value, wants to use it. And if we don't get the opportunity to talk with them in person as well, it might get shut down from them because maybe the sales director isn't that great at explaining all the ROIs that we went through, or maybe the HR manager. I mean, I think it kind of varies, but larger companies, I would say, yeah, you're working with those executive type people as far as the decision makers, and medium to smaller size companies. It could be the HR, training development, safety director. We're very kind of safety focused, and that's kind of how we
Yeah.
started. So that's a big channel for us and an avenue, but this can apply to operations as well because got to train your people on how you do your job. You got to make sure that they're doing their daily reports and documenting things. You want to be able to communicate better with your people and make sure everybody understands the same message. And I think that's one big failure is email, trickle down, just not effective ways of communication. So having that direct conduit to every single employee and knowing you reach them all with that critical messaging is a huge value there. But yeah, that varies based on size of company and type of company.
Yeah, brilliant. Interesting in the corporate space and the security space, we're seeing exactly the same thing. And it's so interesting to get that right in who you're talking to when you're selling product and having those conversations. And I mean, it all comes down to the budget and how well that individual is for selling that as a business concept and a business demand. So it's helping them with that as well.
Having been in the gas and oil industry, some industries, safety has a lot more power than other industries, right? Gas and oil, mining, some of the safety directors can have a lot of influence and a lot of power. And whereas maybe a middle-sized construction company, the safety director maybe doesn't have nearly as much power. So
Exactly. And depending on the industry, depending on the size of the organization, those HR directors or training directors, safety directors, they could be in C-suite level positions and have a lot of clout. In
yeah.
others, they will sit many tiers below and be far away from the decision making process. So it's understanding the structure before going after that sale. Interesting. Jason, before we wrap up, can you let listeners know how they can learn more about Typhoon or connect with you?
Yeah, anybody's welcome to reach out to me anytime. Just Jason at Tyfoom, Tyfoom.com, or on LinkedIn. We can go to Tyfoom.com to learn more about Tyfoom. And yeah, we like to participate with a lot of the construction type associations, the AGCs and ABCs of the world, things like that. So yeah.
Really valuable discussions today, Jason. Really appreciate your insight and getting to learn a hell of a lot more about the learning industry and the mobile app side of things. So it was great. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you. And I appreciate you for having me on. And yeah, this was a great conversation.
No worries. Thanks very much, everyone. This has been Go Phish. Follow us to stay updated with insights from leaders shaping the future of learning and cybersecurity. Have a great day. See you later.